Welcome to the official Hacks podcast from HBO Max and Pineapple Street Studios. I'm Jean Smart, and I am the guest host for this final episode of this season of the podcast. And joining me are our brilliant Hacks creators, Jen Statsky, Paul W. Downs, and Lucia Aniello.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, you guys. There you are.
Hi, Jean.
Hi. Let's talk about the season 2 finale. Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I really want to thank the network for taking a chance on this once it was already successful and there was literally no risk. I'm kidding. No, but there is a risk, obviously, supporting an elderly, messy bitch comedian. But enough about Bill Maher. I'm joking. Bill and I are old friends. We vacation together. So the finale of season 2, I mean, that had to be something that you probably had kind of thought out far in advance, I would imagine.
Yeah, we try to, when we start thinking big picture about seasons, try to know obviously where we're starting, but then also know where we're headed towards in the end. So you can kind of build to that. So yes, we knew for a long time what this finale would be.
Wait, Jean, I have a question for you. What is it like when you are getting like batches of scripts on this show? Are you like, ugh, like you want to read it, but you're like scared almost of what's going to happen? Or are you like, oh my God, I can't wait to read them today? Like, what is your are you like?
I'm pretty excited about reading them. The only time I felt any kind of trepidation was the first few episodes of season 2 before I read them, because I thought, you know, I know you guys well enough to know that you could do it. But I mean, it was like, oh God, I don't want people to say, oh, it's not as good as season 1 or it doesn't have the same. And you guys delivered unbelievably. I mean, I was so thrilled and relieved just because, you know, as we talked about, you know, season 2 of a hit show is you have stuff to prove.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and people are gunning for you once they set you up and so they can knock you down, you know. But
we felt
so far so good, as far as I can tell.
Knock wood.
Yeah.
People seem to be glad with where it went. One thing we talked a lot about and were honestly nervous about was the firing of Ava at the end of the season. We knew that's what we thought would be the right move, but we thought, wow, will people be so upset? How did you feel when you first read that? What did you think about that story turn?
I think I thought that it was probably made sense on a certain level, but that I just assumed, it never occurred to me that was going to be the end of their friendship or the end of their collaboration or the end of the series.
We did think of it sort of like a cliffhanger this year of like, well, what how are they going to get back together? How are they going to, you know?
Right. It is another cliffhanger, the way that we had in season 1, the email, you know, looming over Ava's head. You know, it's its own, it's like the inverse, you know, kind of a cliffhanger, which is like, that's a real parting. And if you don't want it to be schmuck bait, which is, you know, like a cliffhanger that gets resolved in the next, you know, 5 minutes of the next episode. So the cliffhanger is almost, can these writers, you know, potentially bring these people back together in a way that feels satisfying? Maybe. Does that feel right? I don't know.
Is there more? You know, maybe that is a cliffhanger for people if they feel like this is a well tied up series finale.
Well, cliffhangers are always good. So Paul, well, this is all actually to the three of you. Paul and Meg's characters, you know, and Jimmy and Kayla are so hilarious together, and people are going crazy over them. You wanted to expand that relationship, I'm assuming.
Well, it was interesting because so much of what Deborah and Ava were going through, especially in the beginning with the letter and trying to resolve that stuff, it did feel like, you know, Jimmy, who put these two people together, was potentially a part of that story. So he kind of worked in the plot. But then, yeah, I don't know when exactly we arrived at his leaving Latitude. And we always thought it would be funny to have his Jerry Maguire moment that then Kayla stands up and really steals his thunder. We just thought that would be such a funny thing.
That one was one that we hadn't necessarily fully arced. I think we did know that we did eventually want them to go and start their own company. But I don't know if we were like, oh, that's the end of this season. I can't recall exactly.
Yeah, I think we kind of stumbled onto that a little later. But in terms of just exploring it more in general, it's a little bit, Jean, like the gift of having you and Hannah and having such amazing chemistry. Paul and Meg have such amazing chemistry. So I think seeing that season 1, whether or not we knew the ending, we knew going into season 2 we wanted to get a lot more of them on screen.
Well, you can't get enough. Can't get
So
enough.
this episode is also, kind of a pivotal moment in Jimmy and Deborah's relationship, because at the end of 7, when Jimmy leaves Latitude, he does it in a very sweet way because he believes in Deborah and he believes in her special, and he wants to do this for her. But as you see at the end of the episode, Deborah is very upset at this and not happy that now they no longer have the backing of Latitude and the force of the company behind them. And then it's such a wonderful moment in this finale when Jimmy kind of saves the day during the special, and it's such a big moment for him. And then you guys have such a lovely scene in the dressing room, Jean and Paul, where Deborah says, your dad would be proud of you. And it's such a sweet moment. And Paul, you tearing up is so sweet, but also
I know, that's exactly what I said. Oh my God, he's so sweet. But no, it's I mean, I felt really bad saying that line to you, that you've already disappointed me. I thought, oh gosh. And especially after I saw the scene where you quit. And then I felt really bad because of course I hadn't seen that one yet. But yeah, I mean, she lashes out sometimes, and it's not fair sometimes. But it is a big deal though, because it's everything. She doesn't get the Nokia Theater. She doesn't have the agency there for anything.
It's very high stakes for her. She really needs it to work. And so without the context of him having quit in defense of her, she is disappointed. It is scary. It makes it much more high stakes for her to have to self-fund a special and do it on her own. And then it makes it very high stakes for Jimmy because he needs to make sure it works, because he's without a job, really. And he only has 2 clients.
Right.
Deborah and Ava.
Oh my God, you crushed. That was amazing.
It got scary for a minute. And I'm just so glad that man is okay.
Yes, I am as well.
Yeah. Your dad would be proud of you.
Wow. Thank you. Great show. Great show.
So how much do you think Deborah's deciding absolutely to stay with him was based on his handling of that medical situation?
Well, what do
at the
you
show?
think?
Do you think it? Well, I think if she was faltering, that definitely put it over the top and reminded her of what kind of person he was, and that he's also not just a good person, he can also be shrewd and knows exactly what needs to be done, quick thinking. Because Janet lays out a pretty good argument, but she also knows in her gut that Janet's not really a nice person. And Jimmy is basically a decent person, even if he screws up.
And it's funny because I think Deborah values that, but she also values the shrewdness of someone like Janet, the cutthroatness, because Deborah has to be cutthroat herself as a woman in comedy. And so it is the moment when she's like, oh, I see what Jimmy did. He is fixing this problem with a lie so that this special stays on track. And she's like, and that's enough for me. He's done the thing that maybe when Janet says he's not cutthroat, it's kind of a cutthroat move to be like, he's fine, keep going, but it's also in service of truly everybody's psyche in that entire auditorium, in addition to Deborah's special.
Exactly. Let's talk about Susie Essman. Oh, my Lord.
Incredible.
She is so funny. And her scenes in the control booth are hysterical.
She
says she can't see, that she lost her contact lenses. She's sucking on a lollipop or something, and drinking God knows what.
Yeah, she's eating cake pop and iced tea. Is that what it is? Iced tea?
Yeah.
Cake pop and iced tea. She's got really unique dietary choices. Her character, Elaine.
But it's great too, because you really felt though that she was really watching. It was such a great way it was put together and cut and everything, technically, because you just really felt like if she was really directing the show, and we were in separate places. She was we were at the Ebell Theater. Where was she?
She was on stage, actually.
Right.
That tech booth scene, Jean, the very last night when we had our overnight, she was the first thing up that night. And she did a great job helping raise the stakes of that issue that arises in the finale with that man having a health issue.
Oh,
She
right.
really helped, you really
Right.
felt that, oh, this is bad. This is really bad for this one
Yeah.
taping.
Yeah.
All right, we're back, baby. Okay, I need a close-up on C and a refill. Bobby, finally, a frame I could use. Welcome to the show.
One other fun fact about Susie Essman is she's one of the very first people we talked to about the show in, I don't know, 2015 maybe, a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah, we mentioned it to her like at having lunch or something. And I remember her saying like that's a good idea for a show. There's something there. And I remember that kind of being one of the first times I'm like there is something here. And that kind of validated it for me anyways, being like somebody who I respect a lot at a female stand-up really believes that this could be something.
Then I guess I owe her a lot. Don't
Mhm.
I? 10%, Elaine. No, so how did you feel when we were shooting this special? I mean, did it feel different than other previous scenes or last season's final episode?
I mean, I
or-
think we put a lot of work into trying to make sure it did, and starting with the idea of set design and how it would look, and making sure Deborah's backdrop and stuff in the stage felt different from the finale in 110. And then also I think that it's achieved through working with you in costume and Kathleen and everyone to do that, because Deborah has like a much different look on stage and she's actually not using a mic. And so we just kind of wanted to make sure all these little details would be the cumulative effect would be, oh, this feels like a Deborah we haven't seen before, and she feels much more raw
Right.
and honest, and this is new and different.
It was a very high stakes scene to write also because we wanted to acknowledge or at least call forward what we were going to do with Ava and have Deborah speak to the space she takes up and the way in which, things tend to be about her when people are in her orbit. And so we knew we wanted to have that, but we also didn't want to languish too much in the show because in the episode before, or in episode 6, The Click, you do see so much of the material that she's workshopping that will be part of that special. And so you've seen a lot of these great jokes. And
Yes.
so it was a really,
Right.
we really tried to calibrate the amount of things that we got into without it being, again, a rehashing of all of those jokes.
I think one of my favorite ones was the one where she asks the young man whose mother died of cancer. She said, if you had one wish, would you bring your mother back to life or host a late night talk show? And then he says, of course, bring his mother back. And she's like, I can't relate to that. I'm just,
And I heard that played really well last night at a screening, actually.
Yes, it really did.
It really did.
oh, good. Yeah.
At that
yeah.
event, Jen and I sat in the crowd to
good.
watch it with the crowd because that's something we never get to do, and it's not exactly made for large audiences. It's
Right.
It's made for television, but so when a joke really hits that you wanted to hit, it's amazing, and when jokes hit that you didn't expect to hit, it's befuddling but amazing.
But you're so great in that scene. It's such a great scene. It just feels
Yeah.
so real that you as Deborah are finding it. You see the wheels turning. I love watching you in that scene. I mean, I love watching you in all the scenes, but that scene in particular, I
Oh,
really
thank you.
think is so good.
No, it was fun, and we always had great extras, and again, you guys did such a good job because Deborah really is in a precarious position that she's not used to. She's used to being very comfortable and calling the shots in every part of her life, and all of a sudden, it's sort of like make it or break it time. Because if this doesn't work, what's she gonna do?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she always says retiring is not an option, but what's she gonna do?
Yeah.
Because I really don't think she would go to Terribles. Do you? Do you think if she got
No.
rock bottom, would she? That would have to be so humiliating after having a residency on the Strip.
Yeah. I think that would be really rough for her.
And she also knows her worth, which is something that we spend the last 2 episodes really exploring is
Right.
her understanding her worth in a way that she says that nobody else really has ever understood her worth, even though she's incredibly rich. And I think that is something that is true. She knows she's better than Terrible's Casino, so she will work hard to make sure people understand her worth. So she'll never stop trying to prove herself. And she is better than terrible. So she would figure out a way to prove that.
Actually, that's a question I have for you as well, Jean. That thing of always wanting to prove her worth for Deborah, where do you think it comes from? Because we were talking about it today, Jen, Lucia, and I.
Well, I think that, what happened to her, if you really think about the reality of it, it'd be pretty traumatic. And she's obviously not someone who forgives easily. But I mean, she, as we had discussed earlier, she and her sister, lost their parents at a young age. So Deborah also felt very maternal towards her sister, not just loving her as a little sister, but also felt protective of her and had very maternal feelings towards her. But to lose, I mean, she lost everything in like one fell swoop. She lost her husband and she lost her little sister, her only family, and to have them both take that away from her, people who she thought loved her. And I mean, that would just, I don't know, I think that would destroy a lot of people. But she's sort of turned it into, living well is the best revenge. And so that's how she's dealt with it. But she can't let go of that bitterness, completely.
Yeah, she is very much
Not
defined
yet,
by losing those
anyway.
partnerships in her life, which is why the Ava relationship is both so important and enriching, but also scary to her because she's been betrayed by people she cares a lot about.
And then she is betrayed by Ava. So it's like,
Yeah.
Oof, yeah.
she's almost like, she goes, of course you did.
Yeah.
So what is the easiest way to describe, you think, the change in Deborah's humor from season 1 to season 2?
I mean, I think it's two things. It's what she's saying and how she's saying it. I think one, she's willing to include herself in her list of targets, not just everybody else. She also decides to tell the story of really what actually did happen to her in her life. So it's more storytelling, more confessional, but also she's willing to, by the end of the season, also be honest about her own shortcomings. And I think the way she says it is structurally very different than what she's done before. I think she peppers jokes in through these stories, and I think probably if we had seen the entire hour, you would see callbacks. Like we suggest some, like she says, like we talked about before, I am a functioning anorexic, or I'm a highly functioning anorexic. So there are things that are woven throughout, themes that I think are woven throughout her life story essentially. But I think it's, the season is of course about her workshopping that tale, but it's also about her having some learning self-awareness and reflecting on who she is and admitting it in a way that it's really hard to do. I mean, I'm like very proud of the character, honestly, for being willing to be so vulnerable. That's not easy.
No, I think one of the rawest things she says is, I take up space wherever I go, and I like it. I love it. That's quite an observation to make about yourself.
There was no space left in my marriage or in my relationship with her. Anywhere. That's what I do. I take up too much space. I did it back then and I still do it today. I take up space in every room I'm in, on my tour bus, on the icons float at the Vegas Pride Parade. But, I love taking up space, which is painfully ironic because, as we've established here, I am a high-functioning anorexic.
Johnny, you read my mind. Stay right there. Push in. Slow.
Yeah, I think she's has gained a level of self-awareness. And also, there's two other things. I think she comes from a time of setup, punchline, laugh every 10 seconds. And she wants a big laugh. And I think this new show is one where there are quieter moments and there are more poignant moments. And I think there's a lot of power for her in letting the audience be silent for moments at a time in her show. And the other thing that I think is an interesting distinction, which Ava calls out in, again, The Click, she says, but you were the butt of the joke, and we're trying not to do that. But I think in the same way that Phyllis Diller talked about Fang, this fictional husband, or Joan Rivers talked about being flat-chested, but she actually wasn't. Deborah Vance leaned into this caricature of herself, which was a lady that burned down her house because she hated her husband, and she made herself a caricature. So these new kind of accountability confessions, these new self-deprecating jokes, are actually based in truth, are much more real. And that is, I think, a big distinction for her, that she's...
Which is why they're funnier.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if the basis is truth, then it's always funnier.
Exactly.
Now, when DJ comes backstage, I loved that scene with Caitlin where it's after the special and she asks
Yeah.
her how she is, you know, and because that would be hard to do in front of one of your kids, you know, talk very personal things about her father, and then maybe he wasn't all the good guy that DJ thought he was.
You did great. They loved you.
You okay?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was kind of hard to hear, you know? I can't believe you've never told me any of that before, you know? It's one thing to find out all that stuff about you and Dad. It's another thing to find it out with 3,000 other people.
Yeah, I don't know why it's always been easier for me to tell things to strangers.
Well, therapy's just talking to one stranger in private.
Well, my insurance doesn't cover it. What can I tell you?
Yeah, that scene is so great. And it's also, I think, such a nice evolution of their relationship, but it's still not perfect because, you know, DJ says, well, therapy is just talking to one stranger in private. And Deborah, that is not on the menu for Deborah at the moment. But yeah, what Deborah does for her is so lovely, saying, I wore a piece of your jewelry and motherhood is worth it. It's such a beautiful moment. But also Deborah is being really revealing to her about a difficulty she has, which is it's easier for me to talk to 3,000 people in an audience than it is for me to be honest with you in a room, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's true actually of a lot of actors in a way that they were attracted to acting because they could kind of hide behind characters, you know, and use. I mean, I just think it's fun because you're always using different parts of yourself, you know.
What parts of you are similar to Deborah?
Oh, I think on the surface, certainly her sense of humor. I mean, I'll laugh at just about anything if it's
You have a great laugh.
if it's funny. But you know, and she loves making people laugh. I love making people laugh. You know, she I love leopard print. I love sequins.
Christmas room.
You like an antique?
Oh my
You like an
God, the
antique.
Christmas room.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I like a good antique, you know, but I can't really identify with her bitterness. You know, I would like to think in the same situation I would have certainly moved on in my personal life, you know, and I hope people picked up on that. I'm sure they did, that moment, that brief moment between Marcus and Deborah when you find out that Marty actually asked her to marry him.
Don't give me that look. That wasn't real.
The diamond was real.
We were drunk and in Monaco, for Christ's sake. Even if he was serious, I had to prioritize my business. You can understand that.
I certainly can.
Because I'm sure she's regretted that a few times, you know.
Yeah.
And then other times said, oh, thank God.
Yeah,
I dodged a
right.
bullet. I dodged a bullet. Thank you.
I know.
But that scene at the auction just tickled me. Oh my God, that's so funny.
You and Chris are so great together. And I have to tell you something. It's so funny. In the table read for the finale, I got mistiest weirdly at the drinks you guys have after the auction when he reveals that he's proposing to this age-appropriate girlfriend.
Oh,
I don't know why it really got
yeah.
me, because I mean, I guess like a lot of people,
Yeah.
I really like seeing Marty and Deborah together. And I love their cat and mouse game, and I love their flirtation. And it was, I don't know, it really struck a nerve.
You don't even like Kandinsky.
Neither do you.
Well, tastes change. Victoria didn't want a ring. She wanted that Kandinsky.
Oh, you're...
Yeah.
Whoa. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So are you two going to have a registry, or is it just the Metamucil website? Does Ovaltine make a wedding cake?
All right.
You two going to allow the rascal scooters on the dance floor?
All right, I get it. Now my fiancée isn't young enough for you.
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you're a history buff, you know, she can give you a first-hand account of the Civil War.
Okay.
You and Chris have such fantastic chemistry, and we knew that, when you were on set, and then it does, of course, I translate onto the screen. What is, I'm just doing like 82 questions with Gene Smart, but what happens when you're like in a scene? Do you feel like when you are on set and you have chemistry with somebody, it always does show up on screen? Or are you like, God, that scene, that scene was whatever. And then whether it's chemistry or just the scene working or whatever. And I'm not talking about our show necessarily, just in general, but then you see a cut of something later and you're like, oh, that really worked or didn't work. And I thought it should have worked. Like, is there like do you notice differences in terms of like being on set and then the final product where it's something different than what you assumed it would be? Or how
That
you
always,
feel?
I mean, that happens often, I think. But I think for the most part, if you have a respectful, good relationship with other actors, it helps make you kind of frees you up because you don't feel like the other person is like watching you and judging you or is not going to be there for you during a really important scene that you really want to work and they're just giving you nothing back. But I think, yeah, for the most part, I mean, I think good chemistry definitely shows and certainly helps, even if it's not. I mean, because it's funny. I mean, you hear stories about married couples who did a romantic comedy together, and the critics talked about how they had no chemistry, and they're a married couple, and you'd think, oh, that doesn't bode well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you never know. It's kind of inexplicable. But yeah, I'd worked a little bit with Chris a couple times before, and he's so fun and he's so good and he's just adorable,
And
And she can't stay mad at him, she just can't stay mad at him.
no, I think there's that thing because
No,
Marty
no.
is he's such a dog in so many ways, but he's also very likable. And I think it's partly because Chris is such a likable, kind guy. You do feel that a little bit under the surface for Marty.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure Marty has some dicey friends too that he's done
Oh, yeah.
business
Oh
with,
yeah, he's got
Oh,
mob
definitely.
friends.
But
Yeah.
but
Don't check
Deborah
his
Deborah
political
probably has
donations.
too.
Yes, Deborah does too. Yeah.
Deborah
Deborah
does too.
has looks the other way, I'm sure sometimes, and well, we know she does, but yeah, it's like I think I told you guys that I had an idea that Deborah, had this rule, that she only sleeps with Marty in between marriages because
Right.
she won't sleep with a married
Maybe a
man.
homewrecker.
That's her rule. But I decided that she broke the rule one time, and that was with Dean Martin.
Ooh, I like that. Yes,
just-
that's right. That's
I
right.
just decided that on my own because I had a crush on him when I was in middle school. I thought he was the cutest thing I'd ever seen.
I
in my
love that.
life.
That's part of the history. It's canon. It is now canon. We were talking today about if Deborah would have had flings with other male stand-ups in those years after her marriage dissolved,
Huh. Well,
Yeah.
I would imagine just sort of because they're there,
Yeah.
that it probably happened, once or twice. I think she probably finds them as a group too self-absorbed, which is funny because she's so self-absorbed. But I think that would probably be her biggest complaint about them.
Yeah.
That they were always,
And of course,
or that they were always on.
Uh-huh.
You
Right.
couldn't really have a conversation with them.
And she could fake some things, but I bet she wouldn't fake a laugh.
Ooh.
Oh God, no. No.
We were talking earlier, Jane, about how much you like Deborah's bed and how we should write more scenes for you
Oh,
in
I
the
love that
bedroom.
room.
God, yes. That would be the only reason I would want to do a soap opera. is, it'd be fully made up in a hospital bed, full makeup, dying in a hospital bed. You're in a coma, but of course there's not a mark on you, and you're lying there with lip gloss on and mascara, and you just lay there all day, every day. People come out and weep and wail over you.
Oh my God.
Season
Yeah,
5.
season 5 will
I
put you in
get
a
hit by
coma.
a tour
Yes.
bus.
Or maybe you're skiing with Bill Maher and you break your legs and you're in the bed the whole time.
Yeah, you go skiing.
Oh God. Skiing with Bill Maher. That sounds like a talk
Because
show.
we've, on this podcast, been lucky enough to have a bunch of female stand-ups guest host, and all of them say this show would not work if Jean wasn't a believable stand-up, but she's so believable because she's so funny and she's so good at delivering the jokes And I've said something that you told us when we first met with you, which is that you dressed up as Phyllis Diller and always had a thought of, or, this imagining of being a stand-up. You want to talk a little about that?
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's I just remember seeing Phyllis Diller on TV and reading her books when I was in middle school, and I just thought she just looked like she was having more fun than anybody in the whole world. Before it was that I wanted to be Jane Goodall. I
Oh,
thought she had the
Oh,
coolest
wow.
job in the whole
that is
world, and I
cool.
wanted to be Jane Goodall. I finally got to meet her. It was great.
Wow, that's cool.
But after Jane, it was Phyllis Diller. Made a bit of a leap there, but I think I realized very quickly how absolutely terrifying doing stand up for real would be. So now I get to do it just for fun.
It seems like you're so good at being so present as an actor, and I think that that's what the best stand-ups are, just present. It doesn't feel like they're repeating something that they've said 50 times, even though they have. And I think those are the best stand-ups. And I think to me that there's something so fluid between an actor such as yourself, as in literally yourself, being so present, and your scene partner is the audience, but it's also almost the silent, like the moments between the actual punchlines and the jokes that actually feels like when you're communicating with the audience.
Right. And I mean, I've done a lot of stuff on stage, a lot of plays on stage.
Well,
So
sure.
I don't get totally thrown by looking out there
Mm.
and seeing, hundreds of people. But it's different talking right to them because you can be doing a play that's supposed to be very, very funny and you're not getting very many laughs. At least you don't have that absolute humiliation of delivering a joke and waiting for the actual laugh and looking right at the audience,
yeah.
and they're looking right back at you. I mean, Paul, you do this, so and
It is
is it as scary
humiliating
as it looks?
and terrifying. But I do think it's probably a huge asset that you have done so much theater. I think that's probably another reason that it works so well for you to be up there and be a stand-up, because you're comfortable on stage, and that's what it is. You're, because you have actual background. There's real people
Oh,
there.
sure,
It's,
that's part of it.
for
Yeah.
sure.
But I think stand-ups have to be good actors. I mean, you are so good,
Oh,
Paul.
come on.
You're so
Oh,
good.
thank you.
And no, we all talk about it all the
That's
time.
very
It's
sweet.
true.
Thank you.
And I don't think you can be a really good comedian if you're not a good actor. Hannah's great. I mean, in her routines, when I've seen her do stand-up, she has these wonderful, quirky stories that she's written, and she acts the hell out of them. I mean, it's just still just herself. But I mean, it's fantastic.
She's so good at physical comedy.
She really is. Well,
Yeah,
she was
it was
a
good.
gymnast
Cheerleader,
and
yeah.
cheerleader.
Yes, I think that is why she's so good at it, is because she knows how to hit a mark and she knows how to move that body.
And I mean, my God, when I'm trying to be the wax figure
Oh,
and
my
move,
gosh.
and she's flipping
And
me
doing a cartwheel
off,
into a
and
split.
she's doing cartwheels into the splits, and I'm just trying not to
That
start
was great. And you were
guffawing.
great at holding still. That was crazy. That was crazy. People don't believe that that's you.
And now it's time for the part of the show where the host gets to pitch you all an idea for a future season of the show. The idea that I had was based on a movie that was out, I don't know, about 35 years ago or 30 years ago. I'm not sure. So hopefully it's been a long time that nobody really remembers it. We can swipe the plot. But it's called Ruthless People, and it's Bette Midler and Danny DeVito. They play a very wealthy, unhappily married couple in Beverly Hills. And these guys kidnap Bette's character, so that her husband will pay, all this ransom. Well, number one, he's not all that keen to get her back. And she's so annoying, incredibly annoying, and that she just drives the kidnappers insane with her constant talking and complaining. And pretty soon they're trying to figure out ways to get her back home without getting caught and just get rid of her. I thought that would be a funny episode for Deborah if she got kidnapped or something. And it's just
Oh, that is
so
funny.
unpleasant. They finally just tell her to get out.
Or like a reverse Misery, like one of your stalkers
Yes, exactly.
kidnaps you, but then you're like, all right, well, if I'm here, I want to workshop some bits. And they're like, okay, this is too much work. I can't.
You call this soup? Get this out of here.
This talk about a captive audience. Yes.
Yeah.
But oh god,
Can you imagine Hannah? I mean, Ava would be so obsessed with tracking
Ava would
you
be
down.
the one to get you out. Yeah.
Nancy Drew. Josephina would be the one who would feel sorry for the kidnappers.
Josephina would be able to she would know. It turns out know enough seedy people to track you down.
Yeah, she knows everyone in
exactly.
Vegas. She can find her.
Oh, she'll be back for dinner by tomorrow. So that's it for now. We hope you enjoyed season 2. And if you like what we've done here on this podcast, please rate and review wherever you listen.
Thank you, Gene. We love you.
Thank you so much.
I love
Jeannie.
you guys, and it's going to be weird
I
not seeing you
know.
every day.
I know. I already miss
know.
This is the Hacks official podcast with Lucia Aniello, Paul W. Downs, and Jen Statsky. This podcast is a production of HBO Max and Pineapple Street Studios. Our executive producers are Barry Finkel, Gabrielle Lewis, Jenna Weiss-Berman, and Max Linsky. Our producers are Beandria July, Melissa Slaughter, and Ari Saperstein. Our managing producer is Aaron Kelly, and Maria Robin Somerville is our associate producer. Darby Maloney is our editor. The show is mixed by Twee McCollum with engineering from Davey Sumner. Production music is courtesy of HBO. You can watch episodes of Hacks on HBO Max.